Good day, everyone. I am Janelle May Ragay, a fourth-year Bachelor of Secondary Education major in Mathematics. For today's presentation, I will discuss Introduction to Action Research in Education under the topic Reflective Practice in Teaching, Action Research, and Portfolio Development. In this presentation, we will understand what action research is, what is it important in education, the steps involved in conducting it, how it differs from traditional research, and its advantages and disadvantages. But before that, let us first know our learning objectives. At the end of the lesson, the learners should be able to explain the meaning, purpose, and steps of action research, analyze a classroom problem and create a simple action research plan, evaluate the importance of action research in improving teaching and learning. So, what exactly is action research? Action research is a reflective and systematic process carried out by teachers to investigate their own teaching practices in order to improve teaching and student learning. So, in simple words, action research means that teachers identify a real problem in their classroom, try a possible solutions, collect evidences, and use the results to improve their practice. The important idea here is that action research is a practical and focused on real classroom situation. Unlike traditional research, which may focus on developing or testing theories that can apply more broadly, action research focuses more directly on solving an immediate problem in a particular classroom or schools. For example, imagine that I am a mathematics teacher. I notice that many of my grade 8 students can perform basic mathematical operations, but they struggle with solving world problems. Instead of simply saying, my students are weak in problem solving, I can investigate the problem systematically. I can ask, what exactly are students struggling with? What teaching strategies can help them? And most importantly, did the strategy actually improve their performance? This is what makes action research practical. It starts with a real problem and aim to produce an improvement in actual practice. Now, let's talk about the purpose of action research. The main purpose of action research is to help educators become active agents of change in their classrooms or schools. This empowers teachers to directly address challenges such as low students' participation, ineffective strategies or behavioral issues, and to adopt evidence based solutions. Now, let us distinguish action research from traditional research. Action research is mainly focused on improving teaching and learning in a specific classroom or school context. It involves teachers as active researchers and often includes collaboration with members of the school community. Its results are directly useful to the practitioners involved in the research. On the other hand, traditional research generally places greater emphasis on developing, testing, or expanding knowledge and theories. So, the easiest way to remember the distinction is action research asks, how can I improve this particular situation? While traditional research may ask, what can we discover or establish that contributes to broader knowledge? Both are valuable, but they have different purposes and contexts. Now that we understand what action research is and why it is important, let us discuss the 9 steps in conducting action research. I will explain each step using one continuous example so that the process is easier to understand. The first step is to identify the problem. The problem should be specific, manageable, and related to teaching or learning. For example, a mathematics teacher noticed that students have difficulty solving basic mathematical problems. Instead of researching something very broad like mathematics education, the teacher narrows the problem down to something specific, such as students have difficulty solving basic math problems. The teacher can then consider an intervention such as using math games. The second step is gathering information. Before deciding on a solution, the teacher needs to understand the problem better. The teacher may ask students about their difficulties, talk to other teachers, observe classroom behaviors, or examine previous test scores. For example, the teacher may discover that students understand the basic concepts but lose interest when solving repetitive exercises. This information helps the teacher understand what may be contributing to the problem. Third step is reviewing related literature. This means looking for existing information related to the problem. The teacher may consult professional books, research journals, reliable websites, teacher resource materials, school documents, or discussions with colleagues. For example, if the teacher plans to use math games, the teacher can read previous studies and resources about how games may support students' learning. This step is important because the teacher does not have to start completely from zero. Existing knowledge can help guide the research. The fourth step is developing a research plan. At this point, the teacher decides exactly how the action research will be conducted. The teacher needs to identify what strategies will be used, who will participate, what data will be collected, and how will the data be examined. For example, the teacher may plan to use math games for 4 weeks and conduct a pre-test before the intervention and a post-test afterward. Having a clear plan makes the research more organized. The fifth step is implementing the plan and collecting data. Now, the teacher puts the plan strategy into action. In our example, the teacher uses math games during mathematics lesson. At the same time, the teacher collects information about the effects of the intervention. The teacher may use tests, questionnaires, interviews, or observations. For example, the teacher can record students' test scores and observe their participation during the math games. This step is important because action research should be based on evidence, not simply on the teacher's professional impressions. The sixth step is analyzing the data. The teacher examines the information collected to determine whether the strategy helped address the problem. For example, the teacher can compare the students' pre-test and post-test. If the post-test results show improvement, this provides evidence that the intervention may have helped. Seventh step is developing an action plan. Based on the findings, the teacher decides what should be continued, changed, or improved. For example, if the students improved after using math games, the teacher may decide to continue using them. However, the teacher can also modify the games if some students still need additional support. This shows that action research is not simply about finding an answer. It is about using what we learn to decide what to do next. The eighth step is sharing and communicating the results. The teacher may share the findings with other teachers, students, school administrators, or other people who may benefit from the research. For example, the teacher may present the results during a school meeting and explain how math games affected students' performance and participation. Sharing the results allows others to learn from experience. Finally, the ninth step is reflecting on the process. The teacher asks, what worked? What did not work? What did I learn? And what can I improve in the future? This final step is especially important because reflection helps the teacher become more aware of their own teaching practice. And if necessary, the teacher can begin another cycle of improvement. So, action research is not simply a one time activity. It encourages teachers to continuously identify, plan, act, observe, analyze, and reflect. Now, let's discuss the advantages and disadvantages of action research. Advantages of action research is first, it is flexible. Teachers can adjust the research based on the needs of their students and classroom situation. Second, it is practical and immediate. It focuses on real classroom problems and can help teachers find useful solutions. Third, it is empowering. Teachers and participants have opportunities to contribute to positive changes in their classrooms or communities. Fourth, it improves practice. Teachers can learn what works, what does not work, and how they can improve their teaching methods. And finally, it encourages positive change because the findings can be used to make meaningful improvements in education. However, action research also has limitations. First, it is limited. The findings may apply mainly to a particular classroom or school and may not work in exactly the same way in another setting. Second, it can be difficult to repeat because every classroom has different students, teachers, and circumstances. Third, there is a possibility of research bias because teachers are directly involved in the research. Their personal expectations may influence how they interpret the results. There can also be ethical challenges, especially when students are involved as participants. Finally, there is a risk of bias from participant selection. Personal opinions or participants giving answer they think the teacher wants to hear. Therefore, teachers conducting action research should be careful, objective, and ethical when collecting and interpreting information. That's all for my discussion. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation. I hope this discussion helped you understand the action research is more than just conducting a study. It is a process of reflection, action, evidence, and continuously improvement that can help teachers make meaningful changes in teaching and learning. Thank you and have a great day.